All right, test. I think this should work right now. Let's do a test. Mm, I think it works. I think so. Okay. Okay, testing. Okay, let's see who's online right now. I can see. Well, I can't exactly see the names of whoever's online, but at least I can see at least two people are online right now. How about the rest? I'll wait for the rest. So yeah, finally, a live stream on campus that works for more than 54. Okay, hello, Irfan. How are you doing? Huh? What? Miss you? What? That's awkward. That is super awkward. Hello, Waida. Hi. Alright, okay, now I can see you guys on. Like, okay, six of you are there so far. Okay, hello, Farah. Yeah, I don't know why. My IG live was just being so unpredictable and so weird. Okay, Kalis, welcome. Alright, nine of you are here. That's great, that's great. Okay, so let's wait for the rest to come up first. So, okay, 10 of you here so far. Walaikum salam, Aiman. How are you doing? Teha, how are you doing? Okay, this is great. This works. My Instagram was being very weird. Like I tried to connect and after like 1 or 2 seconds it just disconnected straight away. So I thought it's an internet problem, but my data is pretty fast and I still have a lot of data left, so it's kind of weird. But on Facebook and YouTube is working just fine. So it has to be Instagram being very weird. Which is funny because yeah, your Insta works well, right? Mine doesn't seem to be working well at all for some odd reason. I don't know why that's happening. So let's wait for everyone first. Well, while waiting, I'm actually in the middle of. Let me see if you can show this here. Hold a sec. How do I flip this? No, this is your chat. Sorry. This is the camera control. So yeah, while waiting for you guys, I'm in the middle of I know playing a game. So that's what I'm doing while waiting for everyone. So I'll start when. Wait, what the heck? I didn't exit, did I? Yeah. So while waiting for you guys, I'm in the middle of playing video games. So wait, is that even clear? Oh no, it's not clear at all. Who cares? All right. So anyway, okay. So tomorrow is your test, and hopefully all of you are ready. But I'll have this session basically to supplement, for tomorrow just go through quickly what we need to cover. So I'm going to switch my camera on to the book so you know what to cover. You can hear my voice loud and clear, right? You can see in the chat. Okay. So can you all hear me right now? I hope the internet is working well. Okay. So I'm not sure how your table of contents work because the arrangement in my edition and your edition is a bit different, but we're going to go through everything. I'll just point out what to focus on. I'll point out what what we should be paying special attention to. All right. Before that, my voice is clear, right? If it's clear, just let me know. If it's not clear, also let me know. So it's actually quite easy, right? So one of the first important things that you need to cover is, of course, you're expected to know what exactly is the definition of research, all right? You need to know the significance of research. You need to know examples of research and what is the example of all the criteria of what it is and what it's not, all right? So make sure you know what is not considered research and what is considered research, because one that can be tested in the test is, of course, they can give you an example of a situation, then they ask you, okay, is this considered research or not? And if yes, why is it considered research? And if no, why isn't it considered research? So the good thing about the textbook, I'm not sure about your edition again, maybe there's changes, But if it's still in the textbook, well, look for this table here. You know, what is research and what is not research, complete with the examples. It tells you exactly what is considered research or not. That's a very important one to cover, right? Now, the other important part in, yeah, okay, you got a preview of my room. This is, yeah, I'm in the Mahala right now, so what do you expect, right? It's just a normal room. All right, okay. So another thing that you want to be focusing on here would be the difference between social science and natural science, which we covered in, what you call that? We covered this in class in the first week, I believe. So make sure you know what is meant by, you know, human subject versus non-human subject. So if I were to talk about, let's say, you know, the differences between natural science and social science. So what is this human element? Now, human elements are basically things which are unique to us humans that can't really be measured in normal empirical ways. Like, for example, I hope I'm not too fast in explaining here. If I'm too fast, let me know. I'm too slow, let me know as well, right? So what's meant by human here, for example, things like emotions. You cannot measure emotions. You cannot say, like, for example, oh, I'm 80% happy and 20% sad. You know, that there's no way to contextualize that, all right? Whereas for, you know, natural science, for example, okay, how much do you weigh? You can say exactly the composition of a human is what, 70% water, and then you can say that, you know, you're 64 kg, for example. It's very, very exact. The human factor, it's very, very, how do I say this? It's very abstract in a sense that you can't really measure it, but you have operational definitions to help define those parameters, right? Now, the approach for natural sciences, because it's all formula based and number based, it's mostly quantitative, whereas, you know, in social science, it's normally quantitative or qualitative, right? And then, yeah, I mentioned again, wait, what sound is that? That sounds kind of creepy, but never mind. Well, right. And then the measurements as well, all right? So in social science, we use operational definitions. And then for natural science, normally there are formulas to measure things, all right? So far, we are clear here, I think. Nothing much then. Do pay attention to what the book formally defines research as, all right? In my book, it's on page 4, but I'm not so sure. Wait, what sound is that? That sounds pretty disturbing. Okay, never mind. So make sure you do pay attention to what is the formal definition of research. So as you can see here, there are several criteria that, you know, addresses what research is. So do focus here. Yeah, research is an activity. Oh, yours is in page 5. So there's added number. Okay, thank you, Wahida. Thank you. That's a very good one there. Okay, so let me see here. So basically, first of all, proper research is always based on the work of others, which means you kind of refer to others and you kind of get ideas from them, you kind of base it on them, you kind of borrow concepts from them. Because to create something entirely new and original, you have to know what you're doing. You have to have like a background to help you out, all right? So they give a very nice example here about, no problem, Arif. The good thing about YouTube Live is that you can actually, you know, watch the video again. So I'm going to leave this video on YouTube for a while so you guys can refer to it again, okay? And then let's see. Another one is that proper research always has logical rationale and it's tied to theory. We haven't covered this aspect in class. This is actually the next chapter, but I'll just mention a bit. If you notice from all the articles, all the papers are based on some theories, all right? Okay, I think I'm reconnected. Okay, good. So yeah, you can. What I taught in class is actually a simplified version of what's in the book. And this book has been simplified quite a few times. But this one they give order. So there's the first one, there's a second one, and then of course the a key point here is that good research is always generalizable. In other words, you know, there's always external validity and external reliability whenever possible, right? And a very, very, very nice word is generalizability. Not easy to pronounce, but that's what it is. And of course, research is always empirical, meaning to say you can compare it, you can measure it, and it has to be replicable, meaning to say that anyone can copy it or, be inspired by it and try it out in their own setting, okay? And of course, peer reviewed means that, people can check it, which is why you notice, to enter a journal, you have to have people checking it. And then incremental here means that you can keep on building up, you can keep on improving it, which is why all the research papers have suggestions and all that. Now, this next part is pretty much common sense. Why is research important? Well, it's pretty obvious, but if you want a very formal definition for it, it's in the book. I think it should be page 6 in your book. Mine is page 5. So research is important for things like being more knowledgeable in general. It's important for let me see, what's wrong with my phone now. uh, okay, it's important for policy making. It's important for, yeah, for your paper, of course. And connection is bad. Okay, now the next part about the language part, I didn't really cover that much in class, but it's not that difficult. I mean, it's pretty much common sense if you ask me. It's not too difficult, but if you do need pointers, it's in the book, all right? So basically, there are some words that we avoid in writing, and there's some words we don't really use. So if this gets tested in the test, well, probably they can say, okay, what word is wrong in this context, or how do you use this word? So it's kind of in the book, but again, it's not that difficult. It's not really rocket science, or not really anything that is too complex whatsoever, right? And then, yeah, usages of apostrophe and colons. Make sure you know how to use the apostrophe, by the way. But again, that's basic English grammar. You did that for EPT already. I believe all of you are at least level 6, so it shouldn't be too bad. But what you do need to know is how to use this thing called a colon. Now, a colon is for us to use to, to introduce list. It doesn't mean equal. Equal means it is that something. When you have this colon sign, these two dots like this, it means that you're listing out things. Like, for example, you say, okay, among the conditions to be a Muslim includes, and then you do that colon list. That's how it works. Or the names of the people in class include, and then colon. That's how you use a colon. Use colons for lists, all right? Again, not too difficult. And another time you use colon is in your reference list, for book citation and all that. Again, not too difficult. All right. And then commas, again, I believe you all know this. I mean, punctuation. This is grammar, There's no longer normal writing skills and all that. And all your, well, the English term would be discourse marker. In Malay, we call them your penanda wacana in Malay. Yeah, so just know that. But again, it's common sense. Like, you use firstly for steps, you use in conclusion for conclusions. Nothing too difficult, if you ask me. And then what's a paragraph? Like, the paragraph is a paragraph. I mean, you have that indent space. You already have a paragraph. But if you notice APA format, I mentioned this in class. So the first paragraph of every section doesn't have the indent. Second onwards has that space. So a common trick question we might ask in the exam is like, is there an error or not over here? There's no error in the first paragraph if there's no indent. Just make sure you know that, all right? And then let's see what else. These are the basic things, and just suggestions for words. You won't be tested that much on it. There's nothing much over here. This is not much of the theory scale. Let's go to the real theory part of the syllabus, all right? So make sure you know your differences between quantitative and qualitative approaches in research, all right? So basically, you have to know that quantitative involves numbers, and then qualitative involves theories, all right? It's mentioned really nicely here in the book, actually. So I'm not sure what page is this on. In my book, it's page 27. And then this one, the whole deductive inductive thing. Always know that in deductive, you start with a theory, and then, from the theory, you build your research. Whereas inductive is kind of like, oh, it's page 10. Wow, so they really cut the book, I guess. Okay, okay. Now, things that all of you need to know if you want to be good at this subject is this whole concept of validity and reliability, all right? So I just mentioned in class that whole bullseye target thing. That is very important. Examples of questions, normally they'll give a situation, and then they will ask you to comment on whether it's valid or reliable, and if it's external or internal and stuff like that, all right? So we've covered a few concepts so far. Oh, yeah, that's my Saho. Never mind. Right. Okay. Let's see. I've talked about validity, reliability, and then there's something called research timing. It's also known as research time frame. TIMEFRAME. All right. So just so you know, the timing. We have cross-sectional and longitudinal. Oh, the column thing is not in the book. Okay. Anything that you cannot find in your current book, let me know. So I will screen cap it and I will send it on the group. How about that? Because this book was actually released 1 week before we printed the green color book, which is kind of funny. So, and I think your book says second edition as well, right? So I don't know why there's I guess 2.5 or whatever. Oh, page 52. So I guess they rearrange things. I don't know. Our university loves to, change things and stuff like that. It happens, all right? Again, I wish I could be more precise here, but I don't have that copy of the book. Or do I have it? Oh, yeah, I have a copy of the green book. Hold on a second. Yeah, just hold on a second. Oh, ta-da, you love that so much. And, ah, yeah, green book, second edition. This is second edition, but everything is different. Ah, yeah. I have a copy of it apparently. Thank goodness. Okay, let's go through this one. So they've cut a lot of concepts apparently. Yeah, this is easier. Now we're on the same page together, right? And then problem statement. So always know that problem statements are argumentative in nature, right? They are all about what the author or the researcher or the writer thinks is the problem that needs to be solved or addressed in that particular situation, right? Examples of questions, sometimes they can give you entire, what do you call petikan in English? They can give you an entire story or entire situation, and then you have to identify the problem statement. Sometimes they give you a problem statement and you have to, make it correct or stuff like that. All right. And then there is a difference between a thesis statement and a problem statement, but I believe thesis statement is already taught in EPT, so I don't usually repeat those kind of stuff. But problem statement, basically the difference is problem statements you can debate whether they're a problem or not. All right. Yeah, passage. Thank you, Wahida. I don't know why the words just escape my mind right now. All right. And then, yeah, all these statements, these are simple things. You just know them in general, what they are. But what's more important is the one over here, right? So, problem statement, again, you have facts or definition, claims of cause and effect. Basically, problem statement are claims, all right? Nothing much because the questions are more applied in nature. Wow, Wahida performed. Yeah. All right. And then, yeah, again, I'm not sure if you guys actually read through this when doing your assignment, because if you actually read through this, it helps with your systematic summary. It tells you what an objective and what a theory and concept is, and it actually helps you extract all the points, all right? So you want to know in general what's a concept and what's a theory. Oh yeah, you have to know the differences of what is a concept and what is a theory, right? So basically from concepts, and then you build the concepts up, and then you get a theory, all right? And you have to know that a theory is not absolute. A theory can be true a theory can be weak, a theory can be false. For example, my theory is that all students in URA are, I don't know. All right, there's a theory. So let's say if I say that all URA students are alim, all right, is that true for all URA students? Nope. And the purpose of research is to prove whether theories are true or false. So maybe we can do a research on how alim are URA students, or is it true that URA students are truly pious and what's the other word? No, maksum is not for you are a student, that's too much. But you know what I mean here, right? Or for example, I was on the Grab car earlier and the Grab driver said that UIA students are very, very handsome and good looking. Wow, I didn't know that. So maybe you want to do a research on what is the definition of good looking for people of Kuantan, for example. You can do that. So theories are, to be proven, basically. How do you measure? That's why you need the operational definition. So operational definition helps you more or less tell you what can be considered under a particular concept or theory that you're studying. So for example, what is the constitution of alim? So, you know, it looks at your actions. So action meaning you perform your 5 daily prayers. Yes, you create variables like you look at the person's prayers, you look at the person's actions, you look at the person's timeliness and all that. Yep. Operational definition and variables are tied together, so you cannot run away from both. Again, that's good application there. I like the participation here. Okay, let's see what else. Okay, and then yeah, you have variables. Again, we've covered variables. If you notice in class, I tend to compress and be very, very fast because I don't believe in spoon feeding that much. Again, know your type of variables. I've already covered all four, by the way, in class. Shouldn't be that difficult. You're testing which variable, and then control variable has to be constant, and then extraneous is out of your control. And then the book, the current edition, gives you the alternate terms, all right? Because what happens in the test is sometimes we might give you this other terms just to trick you. I know that sounds very, very professional for of us to do that. But let's say, for example, the test asks you, what is the confounding variable for this particular research? And you're like, oh my God, what's confounding? So make sure you know what the other terms are. And the book actually lists out what the terms are for you guys. So do refer to that. Do refer to that. It's on page 19 of the book. All right. And then here it tells you about the hypothesis. Okay, the book gives you a very long essay about hypothesis, but I really, really simplified in class. All you have to care about is that, the hypotheses are different depending on whether it's an experiment or not. And then we have the directional and non-directional hypothesis, which I've already covered in class. Wait, hold on. Somebody said something. Tan Sri Koyim. Wow, since when you get Tan Sri? That's funny. All right. Yeah. Am I too fast or are you guys catching up so far? This is like a mini class for at least half an hour or 1 hour. Okay, population and sample. I think that's pretty okay to understand. Make sure if let's say the population has a lot of different components, the sample needs to be proportionate, meaning to say that, it covers every part of the population. Like say for example in Malaysia. So Malaysia we have multiple races. You cannot simply take one Malay person and say this guy represents Malaysia because Malaysia has so many people. Unless it's a sport where you can only choose one player, then you're forced to choose. Okay, I don't know. Okay, now my internet sometimes disconnects by accident, but at least this is better. IG Live it couldn't connect at all. All right. Now there's this very fancy and old-fashioned thing. Oh, by the way, thank you Fatiha for reminding me. After this video ends, I will actually give you a sample assignment on how this whole thing works. It's kind of like a puzzle, to be honest. It's a weird puzzle. I have my own criticism of this method, but at least you should know that this thing exists and you know how to do it. It seems to be a popular question in the test, a very popular one indeed. All right. And it's slightly different for systematic random compared to the normal random sampling. Uh, I've been asking other lecturers about how they see cluster as different from stratified sampling, but I think there's a khilaf among us lecturers as well for some odd reason. But yeah, I mean, the examples are not so clear from the book. If I find that by tonight, I'll pass it on the group. And then you have your convenience sampling, you have your quota sampling, snowball sampling. Accidental sampling is only used in historical research, anything involving artifacts or old documents and stuff like that. Well, the reason why it's called accidental is because things just happen. It just happened to be there, hence it being an accident. I know that's a very funny way to name things, but scholars being scholars, they have very funky names. So page 32 gives you the whole list, so you don't really have to go through the whole long thing. So yeah, you have all of them complete with advantages and disadvantages. You might want to know that. All right, and then there's this short paragraph here which may seem like, what's this paragraph doing here, right? Sampling size and sampling error. Well, it's basically the whole thing I mentioned. Like, for example, I mentioned in class, nasi lemak, right? If I want to give a sample of nasi lemak to every student, so sample means I cannot give the whole nasi lemak, right? I cannot simply give a spoon of sambal to one student and say, okay, this is a nasi lemak sample. So that sample has to be proportionate. Otherwise, we'll get a sampling error where the sample doesn't truly represent the population, all right? It's basically about getting the right portion. Okay, I think so far I've covered quite a lot. And then from there, let me check. I think I've covered pretty much everything for the test. This is the part that I've covered in class later on about experiment. And yeah, this is the whole long thing. But let me see. I think there's some parts here that might be, because you see, the thing about this subject is that there's a lot of overlapping areas that are important. So, for example, like hypothesis. Yeah, so you should know the hypothesis graph. Okay, this whole coefficient thing, I don't think you really need to worry about that. But if you're doing something psychology based, you actually have to calculate, and from the coefficient, you get to understand the graph better. But for you guys, just know, like we had that whole hypothesis about the abdominal muscles. Remember I showed in class? So just remember how the graph is supposed to go. It doesn't matter which one goes where, as long as this is X and this is Y, all right? Otherwise, that lame joke I made in class. All right, and then what else? Wow, I've covered quite a lot. I'm pretty fast actually, because I want to focus on what you call that. I want to focus on, what do you call that thing? The assignments more in class. And then, okay, ethics would be important as well. This is actually a very, I would say, popular thing. Although I would say that it's not too difficult. I did show an example of a question where, which one was it? The one about the errors in the survey form, if you remember. Yeah, that has to do with ethics quite a bit, all right? And then we have the academic writing. This is, yeah, this part. I know this book skips quite a lot, so it's kind of unusual. All right, so again, these are just the writing section of the semester. Know what words and what punctuations use. Not that difficult, you know. I don't think this is too difficult. This whole part about paragraph development, I think you remember the task on writing about the police. Yeah, that's the one I covered in class. I did cover it in class. Plagiarism, okay, yeah, you have to know about it. Don't copy, and make sure that you quote people properly. That's where we enter APA style later on. Not too difficult. I mean, as long as you change the words and you credit the source, and you know when to use direct quotation or indirect quotation, it's pretty, I would say, what's the word for it? It's pretty common sense actually. All right. Then you've covered APA. Make sure you know the essentials, all right? Times New Roman, not news. Yeah, be careful that it's Times, Times, and then NEW, not news. News is berita, but it's baru over here, right? Make sure it's double spacing and make sure it's size 12. And yeah, make sure you know all this stuff. For your assignment later on, make sure you get the measurements right as well. Yeah, there's actually a measurement for the page and the running head and everything, right? So make sure you know your APA format. I believe that's quite simple. You've already done a good job. I think when you did your assignment, pretty much everybody got the format quite nice, so I have no problem with that. All right, so I think I've covered pretty much everything. All I have to do is just cover the research types in class and a little bit more ethics and research examples, and I'm pretty much done with the semester. Plus, it's almost the end of the semester anyway, right? Okay, so I think I will, let's see. This is the later part. I'll teach this after the test, the whole literature review thing and how to find it. But again, you already covered half of this part in the library session, so yeah. All right, so that's pretty much your research syllabus, your writing skills syllabus. So now I'm open for questions. You can type the questions away. Well, it took me half an hour to explain, so that's quite a long time actually. So yeah, keep the questions coming in. Let me know what you need to know and I'll try my best to explain. It's 11 o'clock, but yeah, I don't mind sparing a bit of time just to explain for you guys because I know that, you know, with all the holidays and, you know, all the things going on, it's kind of tough to make time in a short semester. All right, so questions, guys. I want to make sure that everything is well explained. And I want to make sure that everybody can really do well. Of course, you know, nobody wants their students to fail. No lecturer wants that unless, na'uzubillah, there are no evil people, inshallah. Okay, what's the difference between predictor variable and outcome variable compared to independent? Okay, that's a very good one. I believe that one would be, let me see, on the page on variables. Okay, your question is, let me read the question again. This is the best part about Google. Okay, what's the difference between predictor and outcome compared to dependent? They are just different names, all right? Let's say, for example, okay, what's a good way to explain this? Like your phone, for example. Some people call it a smartphone, some people call it a gadget, some people call it a mobile phone. They're just different names for the same thing. I mean, even Allah has 99 names, all right? So likewise, if you look at the book, okay, that's a good question actually. I'll switch here. Okay. Okay, so my line got disconnected because somebody called my phone. So you know when I get phone calls, it disrupts my internet connection. Okay, so Arif, I hope I answered the question. So that's the only thing that's different is the name, but otherwise manipulated is like independent. You know, it's the same thing with difference. All right. Any other questions so far? Okay, what's the question just now? Is there a summary? Um, Here's the thing, all right? I hate to say this, but this is the first time I haven't seen the paper at all. So I was told that there are no MCQs. Everything is entirely subjective in nature, meaning to say you have to fill in blanks or short answers. Whether or not there'll be a summary question, I have no idea. So I but there are no MCQs, that's what I can say. How do you allocate for the summary question? What's summary question? I'm not sure what you mean summary question. In the mark allocation, even I don't know the mark allocation. So from what I heard, some questions will be worth 1 mark, some will be 2 marks, some will be 3 marks. It depends on the difficulty of the question and the expectations and so on and so forth. So that part is unfortunately a little bit challenging for me to explain this time. Again, because I didn't make the paper, so okay, extraneous variable in Malay we call them pemboleh ubah luar kawalan, meaning to say things that we have no control whatsoever. So for example, let's say if you have somebody in the survey and then tiba-tiba dia sakit, alright? So you cannot control people's disease, you cannot control people's health, you cannot control natural disasters, right? Those are extraneous. For example, tiba-tiba tsunami. You cannot control the tsunami. You cannot control rain. You cannot control weather. You cannot control things like somebody's trauma or stuff like that. Those are extraneous variables, right? Or things like suddenly that person has a fever. Like me today, I'm just recovering from fever. I cannot control the fact I have a fever. So those are variables that you cannot control, extraneous variables, right? Any other questions? That's a good question. I like that question a lot. Let's have some music. Alright, what else, guys? I want to make sure everybody's well informed. Purposive and quota, what if the... okay, that's a nice question, Nazira. Let me see. So let me read that. So you say that purposive and quota sampling is saying, what if one of the questions answer is purposive? One of the questions answer, here's the thing, alright? There are no MCQ questions, so the likelihood of that happening will be practically zero. So you don't really have to worry about that. So that's the advantage of having short answer questions. I hope the questions don't confuse you guys in that sense. I really hope actually. But if that does happen, we'll deal with that tomorrow, right? Let me just double check. Do I have the book with me here, or is it in my office? Oh, that book's in my office. I actually have another textbook on academic writing, and it actually does tell you why they are the same. But never mind. I need to check that tomorrow morning, I guess. This is if you're doing a survey during high school without the reasoning for the survey, does it count as okay? Yeah, you're welcome, Nazira. Keep the questions coming, yeah? Okay, let's see. If you're doing a survey during high school without, you mean that the participants don't know that they're doing it for a survey. If that's the case, because they are not aware that it's a survey, then technically it would be valid. But then again, if you really want to test validity, you actually have to do the test another time, So I would say that that's quite natural. There's definitely higher validity in that case. Yeah, definitely higher validity. Good question there. Keep the questions coming. I want to make sure I have time here. I want to make sure everybody's clear. Alright. It seems like everybody is concerned about the whole validity, reliability thing. Okay, no problem. I'm here to explain. Alright, so when we talk about internal validity, it's all about, let's look at what the book has to say so I can actually, explain it better. What page would this be on? explain. Okay, page 12, all right, in the book. So internal validity, right? Now, how do I say that? If you read the Malay version of the book, it says kesahihan dalaman, which I don't really get myself. But let's say you have your research setting, right? So it's called internal because you're just testing it within that particular setting. Hence, it's called internal. So external is if you test it outside that particular thing, right? So internal is inside, external is a different situation. So let's say, for example, if your research is about whether or not, um, what's the example? What's the Milo example, right? So if you want to test Milo and you test it in the lab, that means every day you do a special test to see the effectiveness of Milo. That will be the internal aspect of the whole experiment. But let's say you're comparing it with another research done by someone else. That would be the external validity going on, all right? Now, ecological validity is where you have a natural situation. For example, instead of doing an experiment, you compare the results with people who drink Milo normally to see the natural effect of Milo. So that will be ecological validity. The football team example is for just reliability and validity in general. That's not talking about internal or external or ecological. That's just about the differences between validity and reliability and how they complement together. All right, because even though they are different, but they actually are needed. Like for example, you're studying for tomorrow, right? So there are many ways to study for the test, but are you using a valid way to study? For some people, they study by reading the book, so that should be fairly valid. But the book alone is not enough, so you need to attend lectures, you need to get notes, you need to discuss. So the more things you do, you have a higher validity in your studying techniques, all right? But then again, are you doing it consistently? So if you have high reliability in your studying methods, you're doing all of that frequently. So there you have high reliability in the way you study. And then that is just for one subject. So if you're just talking about how you study for writing skills, then we can talk about internal validity. Can all of this apply to other subjects? Then we are talking about external validity. Yes, the threads are covered, even though I believe they have been either simplified or removed from this edition of the book. I'm not sure. Let me just check. Where is it? Hold on a second. I do believe that it's mentioned. Okay, yeah, it's mentioned very briefly, but the entire section has been removed. Again, yeah, this because we are kind of simplifying it for the short semester, so we kind of removed a lot of things. But I think it's somewhere on. Let me see which page it's in. Let me check. A second. Again, I was given this green book quite recently. I think last week I was given it, so that's why. Okay, from your current one, I think that the whole validity and reliability thread is mentioned somewhere in the chapter on experiments. Well, then again, not to say it's not important. You should know because it's important for the question on detecting the problems in the whole survey and all that, right? But yeah. So you just have to cover it briefly, generally. Oh yeah, you mentioned it there. So will there be a question? I don't know if the question is there. Even if I know, I don't think I'm supposed to tell because that is, that is like breaking the Secrecy Act. Like every semester we have this procedure where we have to sign a form. Aku janji yang aku tidak akan, yang bahawasanya saya tidak akan blah 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 yada yada yada. Yeah, we have a Secrecy Act actually, so there are certain things that over my dead body I cannot tell you guys. So, well, if you have the attack, well, you already learned how to do it. So, what can I say? Whatever has been covered, inshallah, will come out. Okay, this feels like Moonbug all of a sudden, but never mind. Okay, keep the questions coming. I'll be online for at least another 10 minutes. I'll make time for you guys. So this is considered replacement for the time I lost time, because tomorrow we have 1 hour for the test and then 1 hour here, so that means I already replaced the time when I went for the conference. By the way, what do you think of this online session so far? Is it helpful? Is it good? I hope it's helpful. Ideally, I do hope it's helpful. Yeah, but my YouTube speed is really good. I did the whole IG live thing last 2 semesters and it was good as well, but I didn't expect my Instagram to just not work all of a sudden. That was so awkward and weird. Okay, theory and concepts. Okay, to explain this better, I will look at the book, alright? Although, to be truthful for you, I think that theory and concept is actually added to this edition of the book rather than... Wait, did I miss something in the chat? Let me see. You don't have to wait for the rain. Yeah, exactly. It's a time saver. I think, right, next time if the rain is heavy, we'll just do the class online, because even in our university is actually quite progressive. We had a meeting the other day and I think they already approved for lecturers to do class online as long as we save the online session. And yeah, I actually train lecturers to do online classes as well. So it is a thing in UIA. Online classes is definitely supported and we have incentives for that as well. So, and I have evidences so I can actually show how it works. Among the lecturers that do online classes in our department, I think there are 4 of us. Okay, anyway, let's go to your questions. So, theory and concept. Okay, I believe that's on page 17 if you want to refer to that. Okay, honestly, if you were to ask me, look at concept first and then theory, right? So, basically, before you have a theory, you have a concept. Okay, what does that mean over there, right? A concept is basically an idea, alright? So, people have different ideas. For example, I believe that online classes is a thing. Some people believe that online classes shouldn't be done. That's a concept, right? So I believe in the concept of online classes. A theory is what do you believe that can happen with that particular concept, or what will that concept lead to. So for example, my theory is that online classes has the potential to replace real classes or supplement real classes. That's a theory. So the concept is online class, and the theory is that it can help us. Let's take another concept. So in Islam, we have the concept of ibadah, right? Ibadah is a concept, something that we practice. Okay, I can't say a theory because this is actually already a law, but that you can theoretically say that, performing salat helps you become calmer. So that's a theory, all right? Or another one is a concept. So in IUM, we have the concept of dress code, where you have to dress up a certain way on certain days or certain situations. So a theory is that the theory goes that if you follow the dress code, you are therefore a disciplined student. So you see the difference between concept and theory. So you need the concepts in order to have a theory. So you're linking these concepts with the theory. And these concepts eventually become either the variable itself or they become a part of the variable. So you notice how everything is actually all interconnected. Let me see. Okay, non-directional and directional hypothesis. Very simple, right? There are 3 types. You have null hypothesis and you have directional and non-directional. So null, N-U-L-L, also known as zero hypothesis, means that you say there is no connection at all. So for example, uh, let me give an example. Whoa, sorry, my book fell down. All right, sorry about that. Let's say, Milo does not have any effect on people when you drink it. So that's a very simple, I would say, null hypothesis. Okay, a directional hypothesis is when you show a relationship. So let's assume this hand is your first variable and this is your second variable. So you either have variable A increases, variable B increases, or you have this direction, or you have this direction, or you have this direction. So if there's a change in any variable that affects the other variable, that's a directional variable, right? It has nothing to do with Zain Malik or Niall Horan or any member of One Direction. Okay, lame humor. Don't listen to me there. All right. And then, okay, so you get what a directional hypothesis is, right? So zero hypothesis means there's no connection. Directional means that one hypothesis affects the other, either it goes up or go down. Regardless, there is a direction going on. It can be both like this, it can be like this, it can be like this, or it can be like this. I know I'm using hands is very weird, but it's the best way I can think of to explain the whole hypothesis theory. Okay, I'm thinking of a good non-directional explanation right now. Give me a minute to think about it. That's actually a very excellent question because it has been tested, I think, over time. It has been tested around, because I used to edit exam papers, so I think it has been tested around 3 times in the past 3 or 4 years. So yeah, it's a good one. Okay, hold on, I'm looking at my bank of old questions over here. Let me see for a research question, blah blah blah. Okay, it's not loading properly. You know how my computer is. Okay, non-directional is like this, alright? So directional is the more of something or the less of something, then the more of, the whole direction stuff. Okay, non-directional, the variable has an effect on the other variable, but you don't really know or you don't really specify what that direction is. So for example, Milo has an effect on its drinkers, but what effect you don't specify. That is non-directional. If it's directional, you say that the more Milo you drink, the stronger you become. Nestle didn't pay me to say that. That is directional. Non-directional, you simply say it has an effect. But whether it makes you stronger or not, wallahu alam. If it's zero hypothesis, no effect. I hope that clarifies for you. It's good you asked that question, by the way. That one actually does matter because hypothesis is what I would say it's one of the very basic elements for research writing. In fact, it was in your systematic summary assignment, so it goes to show that it's really important, like really important. Come on, keep the questions coming. I can stay for another 7 minutes here. So do you guys have any classes tomorrow morning, or is my class the only class you have? Because I'm not so aware of the current timetable that you guys have. Oh, I hope I don't block anyone by accident here. I can actually block people here. Oh, you have IRK from 8 to 12, 4 hours of IRK. Wow, all the best with that. Revealed knowledge actually is a fun subject. I would say the terminologies can be a little, I don't know, it's like this semester you guys have the subjects with all the terms and crazy concepts going on. But trust me, it's not as bad as you think it is. Alright, wait, 12, if it ends at 12, can you guys ask your lecturer to release you guys early? Because just tell your lecturer that. Alright, so try to ask your lecturer if he or she can release you earlier, because yeah, your exam is at 1 sharp and it's centralized. So that's quite a concern, because the reason the lecturers chose the 1 o'clock slot is because by right all sections are not supposed to have class from 12 to 1. We actually already make the timetable in a way where 12 to 1 is free for all sections. So I'm quite surprised that you have until 12, right? Oh yeah, so you have the 12 to 1 slot. Okay, sorry, I didn't read that properly. Sorry about that. Okay, so that means you have to have very quick lunch and then immediately run to KOS. Oh, okay. But if your lecturer can release you a bit early, that'll be nice. You need the extra time actually. Any other questions? I'm here to entertain. Okay, while I wait for questions, I will attach that sample question for you guys. But first things first, the campus internet is really awesome. Okay, keep it coming. Questions. I'm here for another 5 more minutes before I end this class. Wow, we end the class. That's nice. Yeah, best part about online classes, you don't even have to think about dress code. Okay, login successful. Alright, everybody's pretty silent right now. I hope you guys are not too sleepy, but do get enough sleep. Alright, after this session, maybe just wash your face, take wudu, read some Quranic verses, then get enough sleep. Enough sleep is necessary for doing well in any subject. Alright, make sure you get enough sleep. Okay, so I guess there are no more questions, or are there any more? You're still thinking of them. I have another 2 minutes left here. Should we bother? Wow, that's a nice question. Should we bother about the types of problem statement? Okay, types of problem statement. Honestly, I was a bit surprised by that in the book. Well, you have to know what a problem statement is, that's for sure. But they are all claims, alright? But I really can't say, because I have never seen a question that really plays around with this. But you should know what a problem statement is in general, alright? Just know it in general. Know your stuff. Let's see, what's this? Difference between convenience sampling. Aha, somebody's already confused here. Sampling types, alright? So you want to know the difference between... Hold on a second, I need to... Just give me a second, just one moment. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, where are we just now? Something about sampling differences, right? Okay. So, difference between convenience and purposive sampling. Alright, convenience is like, how do I say? As the name says, you do it at your convenience, alright? not to say it's easy or what, but it's more like, how do I want to say this in an easy way, right? So, convenience samplings, for example, I want to do a study on students in UIA. So, who do I take? My own students. Convenient, right? Very easy. Whereas purposive sampling is like, you have, how do I want to say this in an easier way? You kind of have a purpose or a target, all right? For example, let's say you want to do a study on, how do I say this without being banned on YouTube? Okay, let's say you want to do a study on fashionable people, all right? So you have your own definitions, your operational definition set, and then of course you will target anyone who meets that purpose that you set, all right? Oh my god, hold on, my flu is getting worse right now. Or for example, let's say you want to do a study on people with certain diseases, all right? So you already have a set criteria. Yeah, the main keyword is you have a set criteria for purposive sampling. Convenient sampling is more or less at your own convenience. For example, you're taking your own students or your own friends and so on and so forth. Exactly. Thank you for helping out there. So you're approaching anyone that's easy. Yeah, true. I get a bit confused here because what do you call that? This one book by Earl Babby, 2004, he states that purposive and convenience are considered more or less the same thing, and people like Harvey Sachs would say the same thing as well. But then books like Salkin and all that, they will say they're different. But convenience is more or less at your convenience. Like for example, you're taking your own students, your own friends, or for example, whoever you see in front of you, convenience sampling. So it's convenient, but it might not truly represent the population, your sample there, right? Whereas purposive sampling, you have a purpose, you have your criteria set, all right? Oh, by the way, Nawal there, that's Miss Nawal. She's a lecturer as well. So thanks for tuning in. Wow, you're watching my stream at this hour. Thank you so much for helping my students. Appreciate it so much. She also teaches this subject. So yeah, you can help out if I'm explaining things wrongly. Since this flu and fever is kind of making it hard. I know I sound extra sungal tonight. Alright. I'll entertain perhaps one more question before we call it a night. Yeah, the thing about being on YouTube chat is that there's a kind of like a formality. You see the people's real accounts, which is cool actually. No problem with that. Okay, anything else, guys? But this is definitely effective. Like, it rains too much, and seriously, the distance between classes here is kind of crazy. So I think we can consider more online classes, especially when, our university gave the green light for online classes. Okay, so I think everybody is fine now. Okay, some final tips. Don't overdo it, just give it your best shot. Don't too much last minute studying, because I think there's a research paper that says that you won't really retain whatever you studied at the last minute. And some people, if you do last minute study, you only remember what you studied at the last minute, so you forget the things at the beginning, which is more, I would say, more dangerous in a sense. So relax, get enough sleep, eat enough as well, make sure you're well fed. You don't want to be hungry when doing my paper, especially it's in the afternoon. If you're fasting, that's fine, that's great as well. So, any more final questions, guys, before I end this session? We have exactly 40 seconds left before I sign off. So it's been a great 1 hour. So alhamdulillah, I managed to replace that 1 hour I lost. Thank God. No, sir? Okay, great, great, great. So after this, if you guys ask me on the WhatsApp group, I'm most probably asleep or resting. So yeah, I mean, be reasonable, all right? I mean, I will try my best to answer whenever I'm awake. Okay, so whatever I mention in class is important. Just focus on whatever I taught. Normally, whatever I teach is what's coming out. I mean, I'm not the kind of person who teaches non-important information. All right, so it's been great. Anything you can just WhatsApp me. I'll send the sample exercise on the group. And with that, let's end this session with Tasbih Kafarah Surah Al-As. Thank you guys. Of course, I'm always praying for you guys, alright? Alright, so I'm signing off. Thank you guys.